3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. We're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is one of the best ways, if not the best way, for you to exit highly appreciated investment real estate, primary homes, cryptocurrency, businesses, to defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth, or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, and wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is the founder and owner of Bradley K. Warren and Associates, and he's a business coach, seminar leader, and trainer, consultant, and certified one thing trainer. He has taught audiences across the United States and 18 foreign countries and over the last 35 years, reaching over 40,000 people during that time. And he's widely known as an edutainer. He combines education and entertainment that makes his trainings both fun and informative. And we're going to be talking about kind of a unique thing today: land banking investment. And I'm excited to bring Brad Warren on the show. Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And just a quick note, that's my former career was business coach and seminar leader and training, but for the last almost 5 years, I've had my real estate license, and I'm now called a land banking specialist or land banking consultant. Just want to make that a little more clear to the audience.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, it's a great background to have, right? Your story that you came from where you're at, and now you're helping people, and you're niching down as a real estate professional. That's great, an investment. So, but before we go too much deeper into that, would you give us just a little bit more about your story, Brad, and how you came to be a land banking investment specialist?
Yes, I do a quarterly net worth statement. Been doing it since 1989 when I met my wife. And on December 31st, 2011, I realized I couldn't retire. She could retire. She had been working at a very large company, had a 401k, contributed, the matching amount, got the matching amount. But by herself, she had enough money to retire. Together, we had enough money to retire. But if I was still single by myself, I did not have enough. So I called my land banker, my friend Marcella Silva, and said, I need to find out more about this land thing you've been talking about. I had known her almost 3 years at that point. She comes over to the house, does a presentation. My wife gets up, walks out of the room, says, no, thank you, don't want to do that. I said, Marcella, this is the only way I'm going to get enough money to retire on. Please get me a parcel. Bought one in 2012, one in 2013, one in 2014, 2015. My wife finally hears Marcella speak again, and this time she goes, now I get it. Now I understand. And she buys two. We since have bought 6 more, so I believe that adds up to 11 properties. And then in 2018, when my wife was finally retired, left that company, on the same day that happened, I got my real estate license and went to work for Marcella. And actually with Marcella, she's kind of my mentor, coach, and business partner. And now I sell dirt. That's what I do.
That's amazing. And Brad, that's a cool thing to have, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the spouse on board, if you will, but nothing beats, doing a financial statement and actually seeing where the stats are, right? It's showing what you've done, what you've accomplished, and what it means for retirement. So I appreciate that background. So let's dive right into the focus at hand, which is land banking investment. So first, Brad, define what that is, right? And then number 2, let's dive into what's the number one secret to investing and building wealth with land banking investment?
So number 1, the short answer, land banking is buying land we call pre-developed land that isn't strategically placed in the path of growth, holding. We're very conservative, so we tell people 7 to 10 years is the average time we have found that it takes for the exit strategy, which is a developer comes, knocks on your door and says, I need your land because I'm building 500 homes or a shopping center or a football stadium or something like that. The exit strategy yields you between 3 and 7x return, 3 to 7 times your investment. And that comes at a cost, which is time. You have to be patient. What was the second question again? The big secret, due diligence. Our company as far as I've seen from any other land banking companies out there, and there's not very many, that's why a lot of people are going to say land banking, never heard of that before. It's a very well kept secret. The due diligence that our company does before it even buys the land, and it buys the land with its money first. It's called first mover risk. We will buy the land ourselves because we believe it is going to appreciate in value. And then we sell it to an investor. But for every 30 properties that we look at, we buy one. That's how diligent our process is in buying the land. So I'd say that's probably the secret right there.
Cool. Awesome. So it sounds like you guys buy pre-developed land in the path of growth, and you're looking for developers to come within 7 to 10 years to offer you 3 to 7 times your investment. And it's in the pre-development phase. Maybe you do some entitlements, maybe you increase it, or maybe you're just buying it flat out and just waiting and let them do all of that. It sounds like.
Yep, we call it set it and forget it. Easy person's investing. We do all the research. We buy the land really, really inexpensively because we have ways of finding land that people want to get rid of that they don't think is valuable because they don't do the research. They don't know. We do mark it up. Obviously, the gap between where we buy it and what we sell it to the investor gives us the cash flow to run the company and give the owner a profit. But then the investor who buys it here, which, by the way, they're still buying it below market, so they're still getting a good deal. They're the ones that hold it the 7 to 10 years. They're the ones with the patience to ride it out. And by the way, Rhett, sometimes people exit sooner and sometimes it could be later. So it has to be what we call patient money. And most of my investors, I'd say 75 to 80% of my investors use a dormant 401k or a self-directed IRA of some kind, which, gets into what you like to talk about, I'm sure, is, how do people tax defer money and do it in such a way to minimize the taxes.
Yeah, got it. I think that's great. So set it and forget it, and you're buying it at a discount. You guys get a little delta, so you'll mark it up a little bit for you guys, but you're still buying it below market. And then you got to be patient, right? And you got to make sure the due diligence is done. That's the number one secret. So maybe talk about the number 2 secret that comes to mind when it comes to successful land bank investments.
Well, you, the investor, have to be very patient. One of the other things that we offer after you're an investor with our company, we have free Tuesday night webinars where you get a 30-minute update from the COO on what's happening where we invest. So one of those times I heard that the city council in Lancaster, where I owned a mixed use property, they rezoned my property from MU4 to MU5. They basically said to the developers, okay, you can now build a 5-story hotel or office building instead of a 4-story building. Well, that just increased the value of my land and I didn't do anything. Goes back to your question about entitlements and all that. We don't do anything. We let the city council do all that. We let the developer have the headaches about getting all the permits. So I would say that's the free updates. And then we offer free negotiation coaching. When it comes time to sell your property to the developer, you, the landowner, probably don't really know what your land is worth. Even getting on those webinars, you're still not going to really know what is the value of my land, because it's very hard to find comps. It's not like residential real estate where you just look up 3 or 4 houses within a mile and you see what they sold for. We do that, but there's other factors. You could have 2 pieces of land next to each other, and one of them has a culvert running down the middle or an easement from the energy from Southern California Edison that renders that undevelopable. But it's the same dirt, Brad. They're both 5 acres. They're touching each other. How come I can't develop this one, but I can this one? That's the land of commercial, the environment of commercial real estate is you got to be very careful. And that's part of our due diligence. So we offer this free negotiation coaching. We might have other owners that are 100 yards away from you or a half a mile away that have already been offered 2 or 3 times what you got in your initial offer, which is always lowball. And we'll share that information, say, by the way, we know that the land is worth at least 3 times that because we have other investors that are getting those offers. And you're going to go, oh my God, I didn't know that. So when you go back to negotiate, you're armed with a lot more information and knowledge so you can do a better job negotiating.
Excellent. That's great. I think it's great to build back up into the community, into the investors, into their training. And so you have for the free Thursday night webinars as well as the free negotiation training. Free Tuesday night webinars.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday, it's one of those nights.
Cool. That's great. And the So if I'm hearing you right, it's sort of like passive, long-term real estate land holding, and so you're not going to do any active development. And the goal is 3 to 7 times your money. What's the average land that you're purchasing? What's the average value of that? And what's been the average return in general for the last, I guess, 7 to 10 years?
So let's make sure you use the word passive. It's passive in the sense that you don't do anything, but it's not passive income. You're not getting any
Right.
money unless we
There's
had
no cash flow.
one client actually leased just like a little piece of their land along the street. It was maybe a tenth of the size of the property. They leased that because the energy company wanted to build a gen tie line, one of these fancy transmission lines, but they go in the ground. So they leased it. So they were getting some actually passive income as a result of that lease, but that's rare. Most of our clients exit by being very patient and then selling. Minimum investment is 25,000 up to 2 million. That's the range that we can handle. And as I mentioned, 3 to 7 times, 3 to 7x return. So even at the minimum investment of 25,000, we do not want you to exit until you've been offered at least 75,000. That would be 3 times your investment, and it's usually more.
Excellent. Okay, great. And what's the average land that you're buying? Is it a $500,000 piece of land? Is it 100,000? Is it what's the average?
There is no average. It's all over. Brett, I don't know if people can see, there's 5 zonings for land. There's non-residential, agricultural, there's residential, there's industrial, commercial, mixed use. The price goes up and the profits go up as you go from the lowest zoning to the highest zoning. But an individual investor, and by the way, I should say people can invest with other people. So you can do up to 4 non-family members, and 8 family members can pool their money. So as an example, you might have 25,000 and you say, Brad, what can I get for that? You'll get an acre to an acre and a quarter of what we call green real estate. That's going to go for solar. It's going to go to an energy company that wants to build a solar farm. You say, well, I don't want to do that. I've got 3 friends. They each have 25. What if we put in 100? What could we get? I said, well, you can probably get maybe, and again, these are just quick examples, maybe 2 acres of residential land. And your exit strategy there is you sell to Lennar or KB Homes or Dell or somebody that's building 500 homes, but they need your little 2 acres because it's in the middle of the 100 acres that they need. And so your exit strategy is a little different for that. So all kinds of opportunities for people. We'll help them develop a full portfolio if they want to do more. But a lot of my clients just dip their toe. They'll buy 25,000, maybe 50,000. I just am opening escrow today on a $50,000. Happens to be 20 acres, which is very unusual. 20 acres of solar for $50,000.
Got it. And I'm curious, Brad, is this like a fund model, or are you buying one-off pieces of land when someone's coming in? What's kind of, give us the flavor for that, for the diversification piece?
You said it. It's one-off. It's not a syndication. You're only pooling money with friends, but you're getting one deed. By the way, people have always asked me, well, Brad, why didn't you take that 20-acre parcel and instead of selling it to one person for 50,000, why didn't you break it up into 21-acre parcels and sell them all for 10,000, really cheap? You'd make well, we don't do that. Whatever we buy it at, 50 acres, 100 acres, 2 acres, an acre and a quarter, 2.5, that's what we sell it at. We don't do any kind of breaking it up or changing the zoning or anything like that.
Got it. Okay, yeah, keep it simple, right? I think that
It's simple.
sense, and there's some sense in that for sure. So, what would you say the biggest aha moment is for you when it came to this? Besides the returns, right? Besides the ability to build some long term wealth, especially as it pertains to maybe like cash flowing producing real estate, right? Because I think that might be one of the things that people want is more cash flow. So, talk to us a little bit about how you balance that out. If a client says, well, I need or want cash flow, then you say, well, this is probably not for you. And, or, hey, put 75% investment into cash flowing producing assets and put 25% as a diversification play here.
That's exactly, you use the D word, diversification. Even with those 11 properties and several $100,000 in land, it's only a third of the portfolio that my wife and amassed over, I'm 71. I don't know if people, they look at me a lot of times. They say, "Oh, you don't look that old." We're 71, so we're kind of in the preservation stage. We're kind of in the, retirement phase. I'm semi-retired. My wife is fully retired. So depending on where a person is, if you're in your 40s, you could land bank twice. You could, sell at 50 and then sell again. So you could triple your money and triple your money. We call that building generational or legacy wealth. So every client is different. We look at it. And by the way, if it's your last 25K, I'm going to turn you away. Literally, I will turn you away and say, this is probably not right for you because you might need some of that for an emergency, a hip operation, a Lamborghini if you're having a midlife crisis, an around the world cruise. I don't know what it is, but if you're going to need that money and it's your last 25K, hold on to it. Wait till you have money that is what we call patient money. It can just sit there. That's why so many of my clients use their retirement funds. If they're sitting there for 10, 15, 20 years anyway, why have it all in the, and I'm not dissing the stock market. You got to have some in stocks, some in bonds, some in mutual funds, maybe a single family rental. By the way, I'm giving you a clues to all the kinds of investments I have. I have other passive income streams. You want to diversify, and we diversified into this. And then I loved it so much and was so consumed. I'm a land addict is what they call me, that I eventually got my real estate license, left my 40 career as a business coach, and decided to do this full time, which is what I'm doing.
Perfect. So I think it's great. And by the way, we're talking with Brad Warren with Land Bank Investment, and you can connect with Brad by emailing him, brad@bradwarren.com. That's brad@bradwarren.com. Brad, I found a lot of people, with capital gains tax solutions and those who listen to our podcast, sometimes they struggle with the 1031 exchange, right? And the equal or greater value within 45 days and the 180 days to close. You have to identify it and all those things. It just can be kind of frustrating. So I'm just curious, what's been your biggest frustration when it comes to the 1031 exchange and or exiting out of highly appreciated assets and facing huge capital gains taxes?
The biggest frustration, Brett, is when they email me and they've already sold the property. And they say, "Hey, Brad, I want to do a 1031 exchange in the land." I said, "Great. When is your land going up? When is your current investment?" Let's say it's a duplex. Is going up for sale. "Oh, we already closed." And I'm like, "Oh, no." It drives me crazy when I get calls like that. So they need to contact me when they're considering selling that first property, whatever it is, duplex, fourplex, small apartment building, I don't care. But as long as it's real estate to real estate, like to like, they can do a 1031 exchange. We have people that we can recommend to help them. My last person that bought, she's done 3 1031 exchanges. She brought in her own accommodator. She called it an accommodator. That's what in her state they call them. She brought in her own accommodator. So she didn't use our guy. So we can help people. We can offer suggestions. But yeah, and even if they just have the boot, I'm sure you've discussed this. People hopefully know in a 1031 exchange. Let's say you've identified, let's say you have $1 million. You've identified a $900,000 fourplex. That's California prices, by the way, not North Dakota. But let's say you've identified a $900,000 property. You still got the boot, which is that little 100,000 that's still left, and you don't want to pay capital gains on that 100,000. Love those people. Because we can find you 98, 99, 103. We can find you a piece of land, and you can then defer, not avoid. Excuse me, defer till a future date, and we'll take your boot money. We'll take your 100,000. We love those kinds of sales. Very, very good for us. Also, very good for the investor who thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to have to pay 20, 30,000 on that 100,000. No, I don't want to do that right now." I said, "Great, buy a small piece of land, a couple of acres, you'll be fine." And then it'll appreciate.
Yep, makes sense, Brad.
Do it again.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, and then if by the way, if you're selling something that's not 1031 eligible, like a primary home or a business or cryptocurrency, we do have a cool strategy called a Deferred Sales Trust. If anyone wants to learn about that, it's a great way to eliminate the 1031 exchange and have some options. But also, you could go back. You can invest back into land, invest to stocks, bonds, mutual funds, a number of things you can diversify, which is pretty cool, and still be able to defer that capital gains tax. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com for that. That being said, Brad, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Okay, hit it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go to back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Invest regularly, even if it's $5 a week, but it has to be consistent. Ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results. And of course, Einstein, compound interest.
Love it, love it, love it. Question number 2 is this: what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
The One Thing by Gary Keller, founder of Keller Williams Real Estate. One of the best books I've ever read. I even went and got certified as a One Thing trainer because I love that book so much. I invested quite a bit of money and became a trainer and taught that class a couple of times.
That's an amazing book, and I got to reread it again. I just read it for the first time earlier in the spring. And if anyone hasn't read The One Thing by Gary Keller, no matter if you're in real estate or business or really anything that's entrepreneurial at all, you got to read The One Thing. It's just really great. Leadership, development, all of it. It's incredible. Question number 3 to you, Brad Warren, is this: what are you most curious about right now?
Most curious, how long am I going to live? I'm 71. I set a goal to live to 120. So I still got, what is that, 49 more years? And I'm curious about how many places will I get to still visit? I've got a bucket list of places that I want to travel to with my wife. So that's what I'm most curious about, is where's the next trip?
I love it. I think that's great. That's fantastic. Second to last question: what's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Wow. Let's see. Lightning round. I think on my feet. I didn't know this one was coming. I didn't know any of those were coming. I would say be the example. In other words, walk your talk. It's very easy to give advice and tell people to do stuff. But then if they look at you, you tell somebody, oh, yeah, you need to exercise and diet and you're fat and overweight. Sorry, that doesn't work. So I do whatever I tell. And this was the same thing when I was coaching. Whenever I would tell a coaching client to do something, I was already doing it myself and already getting the results. That's why I would be able to coach them better and not just give them, oh, I read this somewhere. Why don't you try it? No. Experience is the teacher. Experience.
Love it. Second to last, or actually, this is the last question. After all your success, Brad, happened to all the people you've helped and everything you've accomplished, what's the number one habit or the top habits that you practice to stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
If I only had to pick one, I would say gratitude. At the end of every day, 7 days a week, so 52 weeks a year, etc., I sit down and reflect back on the day and I write down 10 things. I started with 1, then I went to 3, then I went to 5. Now it's 10. 10 things I'm either grateful for or appreciate that happened that day. And it's kind of just a quick recap. And it just reminds me something as simple as a banana split on Saturday night. That was one of the things that made it to my list. It doesn't have to be awe-inspiring and, profound and deep. Just 10 things that you're grateful for or 10 things you appreciate that happened that day, but you got to do it every day. And it's amazing the things that you will come up with.
Amazing. Hey, Brad Warren, it's been a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more and hearing about land bank investment. And I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts, talents of coaching and helping people to invest and earn wealth and build wealth in a creative and diversified way. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Email. I respond within 24 hours. It's just my name, brad@bradwarren.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad, for being on the show. Also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. We're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast as well. We believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. And also sometimes clarifying what other investment options they have besides just, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and traditional real estate. Not that land's not, but maybe it's overlooked, especially for land bank investment, right? Where you can buy and hold, buy it like at a discount, right? Or a lower price point and get that 3 to 7 potential X return on your money within 7 to 10 years. Look at ways to buy because we do also think land's going to be on discount here, given up with the recession that's here upon us or happening soon. So if you're interested, you should get with Brad at bradwarren.com, email him there. And if you want to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust and other investment opportunities, you can also go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com or expertcresecrets.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please rate, review, subscribe, and please also share this with someone who can encourage today. And we'll talk